Good morning, everyone. I think still there are some students not reached to the venue yet, right? The last bus is not arrived. Okay. In the meantime, let me do a small recap what happened yesterday. So yesterday, again, you had a chance to meet Dr. Pankaj Parashar. He was talking about SDGs, right? And a lot of hours, almost 4 to 5 hours, you were with me. So I'm not going to repeat what we did together. In a nutshell, we were talking about lean business model canvas. Start to finish, we did that. Value proposition was one of the key factors which Geeta talked about. And we tried to accumulate everything in one document, which was lean business model canvas. This morning, one of your faculties told me that we were supposed to spend more time on the cost and the revenue part. So I would like to re-emphasize on that when we were doing the previous business model session, I explained a lot about, I explained a Excel where we talked about the setup cost, variable cost, one-time cost, right? All you need to do is you need to put that data in the cost structure in your lean canvas. And when we discussed about the revenue models, business model, like subscription, right? Direct sales, different models, whatever is related to you, you need to put it in, and those revenue models can be multiple for in some cases, right? All you need to put that in your revenue structure, right? All right. So this is what has happened yesterday. Today, we have one expert session today, and then we are going to do our pitching sessions, right? I hope you spent some time with your faculties last night and worked around your pitch deck, and whatever data you have collected, discussed, assumed even, you're supposed to put it in your pitch deck, right? Today, our first session is an expert session, and I'm very happy and excited because today Mr. Pradeep Ghosh is here, and he is a social innovator. He runs a social innovation laboratory. I think more than 35 years of experience, 12 years in social innovation, imagine. And luckily, I was able to get hold of him because he is in Bhopal. I am from Bhopal. My very good friend Anurag is from Bhopal. So I reached out to him yesterday and asked him, what can I do for this kind of innovators, young innovators who have already achieved something in innovation? What can I do for them? And he suggested Pradeep sir's name. And it was great talking to him. You won't believe, yesterday मैं आपको एक चीज बोल रहा था कि मेंटर का काम सॉल्यूशन देना नहीं है, मेंटर का काम सवाल पूछना है, राइट? और मैं बाहर जाके सर को बोल रहा था कि इस सेशन में सर आपको आना है, एंड प्रदीप सर वाज आस्किंग अ लॉट ऑफ क्वेश्चंस टू मी. Literally, he asked at least 5 to 10 questions. When I answered all the questions, then he said, I would love to come. You know why? Because he understands the value of his time. He understands the value of the audience time. And when he understood that his time is valuable enough to give it to all of you, then he said yes. And I want all of you, when you go back, you just see Pradeep sir's profile. All right. And then you will come to know why he is very important for you. But today he is going to talk about finally. तो वो वाला गेट यूज करिए, हाँ ये बंद करिए, वो वाला गेट यूज करिए। So today Ghosh sir is going to talk about storytelling. And I am a firm believer of storytelling. Yesterday I had a small conversation around it. I gave you a word, elevator pitch, if you remember. Right? Elevator pitch is something in like 10 to 15 seconds you can talk about your business. That is the shortest form of storytelling. How, why, what, all these answers, all these things you tell in a small story, in an elevator pitch, right? Today, Ghosh sir is going to talk about storytelling for your pitch decks. Today, all of you are going to today and tomorrow, you have your pitch presentations, right? You guys need to understand how to utilize the learning from today's session, first session, and you need to implement it. For some of you who are going to pitch, please include that learning in your presentations. All right. Over to you, sir. Please, I welcome you on stage.
Okay, good morning, friends. I won't refer to you as students because you're all entrepreneurs, right? So here no one is a student, nor am I a teacher. So we are all the same, right? So please consider yourself as equal as I am, or I consider myself as equal as you are. And let's discuss very frankly. Thank you so much, Naved, for giving such a wonderful introduction. I'm really happy that I'm here. Unfortunately, I was given only less than 12 hours to come here, so I don't have any presentation with me. But I don't think storytelling needs a presentation in the first place, right? Okay. Can we have a cordless mic? Cordless mic? Hello. Okay. Am I audible? Yeah, thank you so much. It's very difficult to stand on a podium and talk. Okay, so how many of you have difficulty in understanding English? Feel very free and frank. No problems? Everyone is okay with English? Right? Okay. So, let me just give a background about, where I'm coming from. So I've been in this journey of entrepreneurship for the past 22 years now. It's primarily social entrepreneurship. And what Navid just said, that a social innovation lab, yes, that has been existing, not for 12 years, but for 22. So, and we have been working on that. And along with that, I have also been a co-founder of an Atal Incubation Center, where we have been mentoring a lot of startups, and also a mentor to the Startup India and all that. So, well, all those things remain, but basically I'm coming from a place where I have been a jury at many of the startup pitches in different institutes, right from IISER and everywhere. And very surprising thing, one gets to see over there is that everyone is so excited to tell about themselves. So I'll just give you an example. So, for example, one of the pitches that we were giving, and that fellow came and said, well, sir, let me tell you, I have come up with this product and this, and then we'll solve this problem, do all this, and these are my business, this is my business plan, this is my financial plan. He went along, all the way. He explained everything. 8 minutes, he had done everything, and he was very happy. We all listened to him. And then came the question answer session, where the jury was supposed to speak to them, ask questions. I asked a very simple question. I asked him, friend, you have said everything about what you do. Can you please tell me, why are you doing this? And he did not have an answer immediately. He thought for a while. And then he said, because, sir, I felt. I said, hold on, you felt? Where did this feeling come from? He said, because I read. I said, okay, so you read what? He said, I read some government statistics. I said, fine. So government statistics are all supposed to make us happy, right? They're not supposed to bring out problems. Do we ever see problems in government statistics? No, we only get to see achievements. So I asked him that, where did you see a problem in government statistics? He said, no, sir, I felt that the government must be hiding something. I said, okay, so what did you do after that? And this went on continuously till he finally came to the point where he had started from. And that is when we realized that this guy is purely trying to make up things. He's trying to build the story on the stage without even thinking that the cross-questioning might actually lead him in a different condition. So we told him, look, friend, why don't you go back and start writing your story again, rewrite your story from the point where you started, not from the point where you ended. So then, of course, that was followed by a boot camp again, and then they went into the second round of pitching, all of them. And then we had to select the back. So the first round was basically to understand how they're pitching and then give them some tips and then getting the second round. So that is how it was. And it was very funny, because those poor startup guys, as such, they are loaded with so much of work, just like you all are. And on top of it, questions being asked by such bald, white-haired people. So you get nervous, right? And so they were perspiring. And this usually happens in most of the pitches. So now, whenever I go for a jury, as a jury member in one of these sessions, my children tell me, they warn me, and they say, don't ask them questions. I said, but that is what I'm supposed to do. They said, because you are very tricky and you put people in a very bad situation. But that's the joke apart, because generally you try to get down to the very root of it. And without knowing the background, it's very difficult to understand. You need to know where you're coming from. That is when you understand where you're going, right? But without understanding where you're coming from, it is very difficult. How many of you have seen Rocket Boys? Wonderful. Tell me one pitching that happened in Rocket Boys, right in the initial episodes. Yes? Yeah, and what did you pitch? Huh. Huh. Yes. Absolutely. Right. So Homi Baba basically gave him a technical solution. Was Vikram Sarabhai pitching to him? Because pitching generally happens to one who invests, right? But was Homi Baba investing in him? No. He was only giving him a technical solution. So it was basically a problem solving. Right? Pitching. Can anyone remember one of the pitching? Yes, please. Sorry? Okay. Okay, even before that, something happened. If anyone remembers. Yes. Wonderful. Tell everyone, how did he do that?
I don't remember it correctly. It's been a long time since.
It's been a long time.
I remember that there was he came into that ball
Actually.
and then he expressed that what is the need of the institute. He let go of his own part on it. He expressed the need, he communicated the need of the institute in India, that the India needs to produce its own scientists so that the Indian science can move forward. And then he put himself as a service. He put his service there that if you build this institute in your own name, with your own fund, I'll come and teach you over there as a scientist myself. So that's what he did. He put the wish, he expressed the need, he communicated the need of the institute, and then he put his own service over there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So it's exactly what happened. And prior to that, Homi Baba actually pitched to JRD Tata with his entire presentation about Homi Institute of Science, right? And JRD said, we are not into this. Sorry, your time is over. And he was actually shoved off from the room. Homi Baba goes out, thinks for a while, comes inside. The first thing that he does is he puts his proposal into the waste bin, right? He puts his proposal into the waste bin and says that all this is crap to JRD. And then he explains why does he want this institute? And that is when JRD says, go ahead. So it is actually going back to that place where you have come up with that idea, which is the most important part of your entire story, right? And I'm sure all of you have got some stories behind, or many stories behind, but one of them which has actually made you think to move on this line, right? That is one. The second part of the storytelling, which is very, very important. It is so important that, people actually miss out, and most of these startups fail because they do not have this in mind. If I ask you, how many of you actually came up with a business idea in the first place before initiating this whole journey of a startup? The business idea. Generally, people come to the incubators, think that, sir, I have a brilliant idea. The bulb blows up here. Just like they show it in the comics, the bulb blows up here. How many of you have come up like that? How many of you have started your journey with a brilliant idea? Feel free. None. Okay, wonderful. Any more? Or just one? Yeah. Okay. Two. Wonderful. So you came up with the business idea first. You came up with the solution in mind, right? And then what happened? Converted into a business. Then what did you do? So when you did your business, did you take your product to the market? Did you find out the product market fit? And did you find it as per your expectations when you started with the idea? What happened? Same with you? Okay, what happened with you?
Actually, I just thought of the idea and I thought it was great.
Okay, lovely. So happy to hear this. But exactly that is what happens. So when you come up with an idea, you're actually coming up with a solution even before thinking of the problem. That bulb that doesn't know what is it glowing for. Right? So when you actually go into the market with your product and try to see the product market fit, you realize that the people or the customers for whom you had thought the solution for are not the ones who need it in the first place. So the product market fit does not happen. And then you end up changing your customer segment altogether, just like she did. She did it right. But changing the customer segment changes the product as well. Because the new customer segment has a new need, has a different need. And you need to cater to that need as well. Right? So this is what usually happens. The journey ideally should be around, and as I see, most of you should come up with first the need, then research into the need. So much so that you identify the root cause of that need. You don't need to just brush up at a particular place. It's not just one level of the need that you're actually seeing. So one need that you have identified arises out of something else, which is another need. So going down deeper into the primary need is most important, not the secondary or the tertiary need. Remember, these things are very, very important in your entire startup journey. I'm sure you might have done all that. And then you build up the solution, addressing the primary need and adding on the secondary needs as well. That is when your product becomes holistic or a complete solution rather than just a stopgap solution. What happens in a stopgap solution? A stopgap solution helps in only addressing a market till a certain extent. Then it gets stagnated. You've made the primary need, what about the secondary? So it should evolve continuously. And your product or service should be so designed that it needs to evolve along with the needs of people, not just get stagnated at one place. Never, ever get married to your idea. Never. The moment you get married, you can't have any more girlfriends, right? Or boyfriends. I'm sorry to say that, but I'm just comparing the two things, because then you don't get any other idea worth exploring that can help your product evolve further. Right? So please remember, these are a few things that probably, you might get. But I'll quickly come to the storytelling part of it. Storytelling is actually based on all these things. How do you convey your story to an absolute stranger? Right? How much time do you get in an elevator pitch? How much time does the elevator take from? It's only 30 seconds. Right? Maximum 2 floors that you get. You don't know the investor is will be getting off at which floor. Right? So maximum 2 floors that you get. Generally, you are prepared for 1 minute or 2 minutes, but an elevator is not there for the whole time. So elevator pitch, you should actually prepare only for 30 seconds. And in 30 seconds, what all is that you can do? What can you do in 30 seconds? Tell your whole story. Is it possible? No. So what do you do? What is your intention in that elevator pitch? To get them excited, absolutely. To get them excited just enough so that they give you an appointment. That's it. That's the objective of an elevator pitch. The short pitch is to get them excited further into talking business. And the long pitch is talking about business. So you actually don't talk about business in the elevator and in the short pitch. You generally don't talk about it, right? Because how much can you think a person will grasp? If you just go around like bullet speed train and say everything, they won't absorb it. Right? So, why don't we do a quick exercise? Instead of, just sitting here and listening to this old man, why don't we just work on ourselves? I know you'll be doing a pitching after this, but why don't we take just 5 or 7 minutes to prepare something as an elevator pitch, keeping just 30 seconds in mind. And the objective of grabbing the attention of the person who's listening to you. Just that. And we'll take a few examples. Some of you can, just speak up, saying that this is the elevator pitch that I've been writing. So for preparing a 30 seconds pitch, you need max, you're experts. You need what, 5 minutes? How much? You don't need to rehearse. What you need to do with this is, how do you get that person excited? You just get them excited by telling where you're coming from. What led you into thinking about a solution? But you do not need to tell the whole solution. If you tell the solution, what will that person call you for? Isn't it? If I understand your whole story, I don't need to hear you again, right? So you need just enough. It's a bait that you're putting for that person. Please hear me. I have got something. You understand what I'm trying to say? Can we just take 5 minutes to do a short elevator pitch of 30 seconds, prepare it, and 1 or 2 of you can just speak up. Can we do that? 10 o'clock dot. Our time starts now, 10:05. I see a lot of faculty also here, but not for you. It's just for the startups. Please, I think it'll be good. Okay. Done? Who would like to just make an elevator pitch 30-second? Just a demo, kind. Anyone would like to? Volunteers? Yes, please.
Yeah. After I got married 15 years ago, every morning there were shouting matches. My wife would shout from bathroom, please count how many whistles of cooker have happened. There should be 3 on fast gas and 2 on slow gas. I counted 2 on fast, you count further. And I remembered that same used to happen at my parents' house. I asked around and I realized it was happening to my colleagues also. And I thought, why can't I make a device which will do it for me and my wife and all of my colleagues?
Excellent. Excellent. Wonderful. Wonderful. Anyone else? Yes. Okay, just I just ask it after that. Okay.
You might have, we have learned the poem, मछली जल की रानी है, जीवन उसका पानी है, हाथ लगाओ डर जाएगी, बाहर निकालो मर जाएगी. You want to move like fish? Everyone wants to move like fish. So here, this means of transport, we want to move through water. And just like the e-rickshaw, we want to make the e-boat. And that e-boat take you from one corner means Varanasi to Prayagraj within 30 minutes, and this is fly pitching.
Wonderful. Excellent. Right. And after you, let's hear a few girls also, right? Any girl volunteers? Women volunteers? No? Why only boys? Okay, please go ahead.
Sir, I have analyzed the pain of the farmers who used to wait long for storing their storable crops to the storage, and after some time they got to know about that storage is full. Then why not there should be a platform, but there should I'm not coming to the solution. I'm just suggesting that.
Wait, just tell me the pitch.
Yes, sir.
Don't explain. Just give the pitch.
Okay, sir. So the pain farmers facing for the storage capacity of the storages, and that's the pain that I have analyzed and I have empathized to the farmers.
And you have a solution for that.
Yes, sir.
Great, great, lovely. Okay. Any among the women? I would love to hear from some girls also. Our women entrepreneurs are a bit shy. Is that so? Sorry? Oh, okay. But But if the students are not coming, why don't you please? Go ahead. Take the mic.
So maybe I'll talk. I'm a serial entrepreneur, sir, and I'll just say 3 words as my elevator pitch for the second startup that I was working on. It's called Help Now. Maybe you all can Google when you go back. So we were actually in a lift with an investor, and we said we are building the Ola for ambulances. That was our pitch.
Wonderful.
That's it.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Lovely. So do you realize? Yeah. Oh, lovely. Please. Here we have another young woman.
Suicide. 11.2% suicides in India are farmers. The reason behind the suicide is poor agriculture and low crop yields. This threatened us, and here we are.
Good. Good. Lovely. Excellent. Okay. So does this short exercise, has it changed your elevator pitch that you had created in the beginning or earlier? Has it changed a bit? So you need to understand, what is the investor wanting to hear? See, it's very important. Psychology plays a big role here. In the entire startup business, it is actually psychology that plays. If you haven't studied psychology, that's not a problem at all. Every human understands psychology. Where does psychology come? It's psychology of the customer, psychology of the investor, psychology of the partner, psychology of your collaborator. Every stakeholder, you need to understand their psychology. What are they looking for? No one is interested in what you are looking for. It's very bad to hear that, very sad to hear it. But no one is actually interested in what you're looking for. Everyone is interested in what they are looking for. Just like you are interested in what you're looking for. So there's nothing wrong, but you need to understand what they're looking for. So when you say an elevator pitch, the storytelling is only to catch the attention of that person who is standing in the elevator. He might be a very surprise element for you. You might have never thought that you would meet that person in the elevator, right? But it is not that you will not know that person. It is not that there will be a stranger in the elevator and later on you come to realize, oh my God, he was an investor. It doesn't happen that way. You've already read about him. That is how you recognize that person, him or her, that he or she is an investor, right? So when you know about that person, you also know about the psychology of that person, what that person thinks. You go through the LinkedIn profile posts, you go through the Facebook posts, Twitter posts and everything. I try to understand what that investor is actually looking for. He might be a very high pro-government supporter. He might be a very high anti-government. He might be a midway kind, a person who's with neither. He might be looking for something that is really hitting the grassroots, the bottom of the pyramid. So you understand the psychology of the person and your elevator pitch changes accordingly. It doesn't change according to what you want to say, it changes according to what the person wants to hear. Storytelling is always based on what others want to hear from you. Right? So never think that, you will always be heard. If you have not done your homework properly on the one who is hearing you, you will not be heard. There will be no chance. Just like Homi Baba pitched it to JRD, saying that he wanted to start Home Institute of Science for research, and JRD said, sorry, I am not interested. He didn't do any homework. But then when he went back, and he tried to understand why is JRD so interested in the nation's development post-independence, and he is budding along with Nehru. Why? And then he realized that JRD's actual interest is in the growth of Indian population post-independence. And that growth happens only by bringing in the right kind of technology, the right kind of education here. That is when Homi Baba steps in again, asks for 5 minutes, dumps his proposal, and says, he just says, sir, what are you, this tie is from where? Some country, your shoes, Italy, watch, Swiss. Are you wearing anything that's Indian? And he said, no. He said, because we do not make anything here. And that is what I want to do by helping people make, manufacture, create things in our country. And GID sat down and he says, you've got a point. So he did his homework on GID. So it's very important how you change your pitch. His entire proposal got into the waste bin. Of course, he picked it up later and then he improvised his product or his entire thing to match GID's vision as well, because GID was funding it. Very, very important. Now, whether you do this in the 30-second, whether you do this in the 5-minute short presentation or 10-minute short presentation, and whether you do this in the detailed presentation, you have to understand the psychology of the investor. All investors are not made for you. Be very, very clear about this. And you are not made for all investors. So you have to pick the battle. You do not have to fight every battle. If you spend up your energy on storytelling to everyone, you'll find that the number of responses that you get is much lesser than the number you have approached. You'll do a comparative thing. And that is when you'll feel depressed. Right? So pick your battles very carefully. Storytelling will completely depend on the person who's hearing you out. For example, say there are a group of investors here. Say, for example, there are a group of investors here, and I am pitching to the group of investors, right? And I have not done any homework about them. I do not know where they are coming from. What is their area of interest? I have not done any homework. And I just start pitching to them. Half of them will sleep midway. They're not interested. And when I get that reaction that, oh, 2 of them are dozing off, what kind of a feeling would I have? I'll say, sorry, I lost it. Isn't it? Right? So you need to do your homework, pitch your words very carefully, choose your words very carefully. At every point of time, your story actually changes. It changes. Don't think there's only one story that's going to remain. Even when you do your pitch decks after this, please don't think that it's just going to be one story that's practiced here and will be implemented everywhere. It will not meet 100% success. It might meet 50% success. But if you choose your battles carefully, if you choose whom to speak to carefully, if you get a choice, of course, and if you've done your homework better, then you will realize that 80% of your pitches actually result in investment. Right? Okay, great. That's one part. Now, this is before you get an investment. That's how the storytelling happens. Right? What happens after you have started off? You've got an investment. Right? After this, what happens? Is that the end of the story? You've got an investment, you're happy, you've got enough money, you've started working. Does the storytelling end there? Sorry? It's the starting of a new story, absolutely. Because now you're actually selling your growth. See, every point of time you're selling. You're selling yourself, your product, your startup, your initiative to someone whom you do not know. Your storytelling starts again in a new way. It's now not pitching, but it's showing your growth, what you're doing, how you're doing, what benefit are you getting, what benefit others are getting. You start telling about your growth story. That's the storytelling, it's a growth story, right? And then you find a lot of people who get attracted to your growth story. And they start coming in on their own. Some of them might ask you a lot of questions, very uncomfortable questions also. That you have talked about these numbers. Where did you get these numbers from? Be very careful. Whenever you talk about numbers, always keep references with you. The numbers either come from your own primary research that you do on the field, or it comes from a secondary data, which is someone else's primary data. So you need to give that reference. If you do not give that reference and call it your own, you will be asked 100 number of questions and will result in plagiarism. So be very careful, be very honest, be very transparent. References should always be there so that any question asked, you can always fall back on the reference, and please double check the reference before quoting their data. A lot of fake data also around. So always double check whether the data is true or not. There are a lot of sites that tell you which information is fake and which is not. Do a double check before you quote anyone's data. That goes along with your growth story. For example, if that girl was talking about farmer suicides, right? So farmer suicides, the initiative that she has taken, and after that, figure comes from some survey that the farmer suicides have reduced, right? She'll be very happy because she can quote that data, right? But that data, whether it is correct or not, is not known. So you need to double check whether that data is not created by someone, not fabricated by someone, just to put the government or the country in a better picture, right? And if the data goes the wrong way, then what happens? Does she get depressed? Let's take your example. So you have started your initiative and the farmer suicides actually get reduced and the data is correct. How would you pitch your story? What would you tell people? Has that happened because of you? Right. And how would people appreciate your contribution in reducing the farmer suicides? You need to tell that also, right? You need to tell that, right? That many like me started similar initiatives because of which we have been able to build up the confidence of the farmers so that they do not end their lives and start thinking in a different way, right? So your storytelling helps you in actually making you part of the solution, projecting yourself as part of the solution. What happens if the number of farmer suicides increase? What do? Reevaluate what? Sorry? The business model. But it doesn't happen because of you. There might be some other reason. That is wrong. I would tell the correct data. Don't do that. Now you can actually rebuild your story saying that it is not that it has ended, it is actually growing, so I am needed in more places. Correct? Don't ever think that the data is coming because of only your efforts, positive or negative. But you need to build your storyline to show that I am needed at more places now because this is increasing. So many like me are needed. I need to expand. You need to project your growth story accordingly, right? So it's depending on situations that you actually modify your growth story along the way, right? Wonderful. Finally, you have achieved good success. You're very happy. You've done something, right? But unfortunately, the world doesn't understand, doesn't recognize, doesn't even know about you. You still have got a purple by now. But no one gave you, no one nominated you. What do you do? What do you do? What should you do after that? You just sit quiet and say that, okay, I'm happy. I've done my part. Whether the world recognizes me or not, I'm happy. You sit quiet. You want people to recognize your efforts, right? You want the country to know, not because you want credit, but because you can become an inspiration to me. So that many others who have just started can also think similarly, right? So that more farmer suicides can come down, right? Farmers don't need to suicide, only if there are more people giving them solutions, right? So you want people to get inspired by your story. So then you start storytelling, giving your work as an inspiration to others. So see, your storytelling is changing depending upon the customer segment you want to address. First levels, it was the investor. The second level, it was the one or the ones who would help you scale up growth. And the third segment is the ones whom you want to inspire. The same story, said in different forms, takes you through the whole journey of entrepreneurship. So it's actually the storytelling that keeps changing, not your startup, not your initiatives, but the way how you tell people the same story, that changes, and that is primary. Because until and unless the world knows that you have started something, you are doing something, and you have done something, no one will follow you. You need to show that you have been the change so that others can also be part of the change. Right? It's as simple as that. Not as simple, but please understand that you should always focus on the psychology of the segment that you are addressing to. Build your story according to what they want and then present it. Good? Thank you so much. Yeah, we have to have questions. Yeah, can we have, you can just speak up. I think I'll repeat your question after that.
Basic example of how a person should do it exactly so that he can start.
Okay. So he wants to have an example of an actual elevator pitch. Okay, let me take one from the work that we have been doing. Okay. So let me just tell you, I'm giving you the elevator pitch, all of you, right? And then I would see your reaction. So I meet someone in the elevator and I say, sir, actually, all of us are a lot worried about education. And we all talk about education, but when it comes to education about the privilege, it's primarily we talk about quality education. When it comes to education of the underprivileged, it's only literacy that we talk about. Why don't they get quality education as well? This is something that has been going around in my mind for a long time. And I thought that why not work on quality education for underprivileged children? The only problem is they cannot afford. So I need to give them quality education at no cost. And with that in mind, I started working and I found a very interesting phenomena that every city that has a lot of children who do not go to school or cannot go to school also has lots of museums. And with that idea, I built something which I would like to share with you. Does this raise curiosity in you? Yes. That's enough. That's enough, right? I just need that person to hear me out. Oh, okay. What is it next? Look forward to it. Just like, we have those serial episodes on our TV and how they leave you at the last moment so that you're bound to see the next movie happening tomorrow. Right? Secure mark, right? Great. Yes, please. Any other questions? Feel free and frank to ask any question. No question is foolish. Please go ahead.
Sir, you told us right now when we have got success and not recognition, then how we will get to know that what one which you have got is success?
Sorry, come back again.
Sir, you told us right now when we have got success and not recognition, then how will I get to know that one which I have got is called success?
That's a good thing. So, see, success, please don't ever compare success with any parameters of money making, right? Because if you start comparing yourself with, that I've made so much of money, so much of profits, that's not success. Success always depends upon the number of people you have touched. Right? What are you doing your business for? At the end of the day, it is not only for yourself. Your product is nothing if customers don't buy it. Right? Your service is nothing until unless people get benefited by that. Right? So your success actually depends upon the number of people who have been benefited by either your product, your service, or your idea. And thus, an individual parameter, it is never comparable with anyone. If I say that, I have touched 2 million people on this planet, and you say that, well, I have touched 200 million, we're not comparing to each other. I consider this as success, you consider that as success. That's okay. So success is purely yours. When you are satisfied that you have achieved success, that's it. Don't compare with anyone, don't compare or measure with money. Have I answered your question satisfactorily?
But sir, satisfaction at a point of time is also not good.
Why not good? What is wrong is, why did you start this initiative in the first place? Where did you come from? I'm not asking the place, but what is that story behind you? That story behind you that led you to this initiative, has that objective been met? Has that problem been resolved? Is that issue over? If it is, then you're successful. If it is not, then you need to work more. That's simple, right? You should always reflect back upon that first thing that you had seen. That past should always be there. Well, just the point that you have started from should always keep that in mind. And that is your benchmark for measuring success. Have you made that? Right?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yeah. Anyone else from that side, or you have here also?
Hello, sir. Sir, I want to ask, what is your mantra to tackle the failures? Like all of us have failures in our life, and what is your motivation to tackle the failures so it can help us a lot?
Okay, wonderful question, and this gets asked many times.
Thank you, sir.
So I'm happy to answer this. But tell me, how many of you have failed in your life? Wonderful. How many of you have failed twice in the same thing? Thrice in the same thing. Thrice in the same thing. 4 times. After that, what did you do? I can understand. That's okay. You don't need to. You don't need to, right? I'm saying that in any of your initiatives, or let's take your school college examinations, right? Let me put it in the most simple way. Otherwise, you say that I can never drive a car. So, in your examinations, have you ever failed twice in the same subject in the same class? Why not? Why not? Because you learn out of your first failure, right? And then you improvise yourself so that you don't fail twice. Even if you end up with their minimum marks, but you don't fail, right? So always you take your failure as something to learn from, even in your examinations. That is inherent in you. No one has to teach you or tell you that failure is a path to success. All the big words is good, but you're already doing it. You will never fail twice, you will never fail thrice in the same thing, because you'll always improvise. So keep improvising. It's not a failure. It's not a failure. Something has not worked for you. That's it. So something else in a different way might work. That's the solution. So never consider failure as a failure. This is everyone says this, but always consider it as a scope of improvisation. I'll tell you one very small thing. So in our social innovations laboratory that we have, we do innovations for the social sector, for the development sector, developing new models, new approaches and everything, right? This can actually help you. Now, what happens is usually we do a lot of research. We identify a need, we do an in-depth analysis, we do an in-depth research, find out the root cause, and then come up, some very different kind of a solution, out of the box solution, and we try it out here. But before the solution actually goes onto the paper as well, I have a group of people coming from various professions who are my sounding board. Right? And why do I call them the sounding board? Because one thing, Indians are the best at in the world. Tell me what? Sorry? Excellent. Criticizing. They can criticize you like, tearing you into pieces. I use that as a quality of people, and I ask them to criticize the solution that I have given, to the extent that this is not doable at all. And I, as a solution suggester, I'm not supposed to give an answer. Even if I know that I have the solution for that criticism already built in, I'm not supposed to answer. I keep quiet and I keep noting down, because in my presentation to them, either I have not been very clear on that solution, and that is why they are asking this question, or they have identified a gap that I have not even thought of. So those gaps and those questions actually help me in refining my solution. We call this as a negative brainstorming session. Normally people do brainstorming for positive things. We do a negative brainstorming. It's pure criticism that happens. And it's so, at times it's so insulting. But that's it. Because if you are able to take that insult in the initial stages, you will become very humble, and when an investor actually insults you, you will not feel bad. That's also a good part. So we do that. And this is an iterative round. It doesn't stop once. It doesn't happen only once. So once I ask them to criticize, get the gaps, fill in the gaps, present it again, then again they do it. And in a similar way, then finally, we do a very good stakeholder criticism. You know what is a stakeholder criticism? So for example, every solution of yours, say for instance, let's take, I'm taking your farmer's example every time, right? Just as a cue point. So let's take an example of the farmer suicides. Now, farmer suicides are not happening only because of the farmer. It is happening because of the, sorry? So debts, so financial pressures, so financial institutions are stakeholder, government is a stakeholder, the fertilizer and pesticide lobby, that lobby is a stakeholder, everyone is a stakeholder. Finally, the customer is a stakeholder, right? So these are different stakeholders into the entire problem. What I ask my sounding board is that I ask them to take up different roles of stakeholders and then criticize from their point of view. So wear the hat and then criticize. So I get to know that what can be the different stakeholders' opinion on the solution. And then I find more gaps, fill them in again, and then try to refine my solution. After doing this, it's an iterative session which goes on for long. We have been able to make our solution 70%, 70% foolproof, which is a big percentage. After that, we take it to the field for a pilot. We do the action pilot, and that is where we get to learn the 30% problems that come from the field. Then we build those solutions again into our complete solution and develop it as a complete model, leave it for replication. So the sounding board and the criticism, using criticism as to your advantage, is very, very helpful in the startup journey. Because anyway, people will criticize you. Why not hear it at the initial stage and try to remove as much criticism as possible so that you don't get much criticized later. So you can use these techniques, so that you do not fail when you go on the ground. Right? Prepare before that. It's just like preparing for an exam. Thank you. Yeah.
I have a question.
Okay.
So I want to ask you, Ghosh sir, what are the real challenges of social entrepreneurs and innovators? Because as an entrepreneur, I know there are people are driven with revenues more in normal circumstances, in normal startups. But innovators, first thing I would like to understand, what are the real top 3 challenges for social entrepreneurs? And as an social innovators, and as an entrepreneur, what are their challenges and how they can, overcome those challenges?
Okay, my God, these are too many questions packed into one.
Yeah.
Okay, so see, the biggest problem with social innovation is that you need to actually have a blank mind, which is very difficult because you get so much, influenced by data and opinions that you get to read, that you try to build up a picture in your mind, visualize a picture that this is what is happening and this is what I need to address. So that's a very big challenge for innovators, that how do you take yourself out of that box and think very independently? It doesn't happen immediately. It doesn't. You need to practice this time and again to build this up. It comes with practice only. But that's the biggest challenge. Because thinking out of the box needs to look at the problem from also a different out of the box lens. Right? So that's very, very important. So you need to prepare your mind accordingly. So that's a challenge which many innovators face because they get too much influenced by data and opinions. The second challenge is that, any innovation, whether it is social innovation or anything, needs to have a look at the problem for which the innovation, or the problem or the need for which the innovation is there. You need to look at that problem from multiple lenses. And when I say multiple lenses, it means looking from the perspective of multiple people into that problem. So again, taking the same example of the farmer suicides where there are stakeholders, you need to take a look at the problems from each individual stakeholder's eye. Right? It is very, very important. Each stakeholder's eye, you need to look at the problem. And this the innovator has to do on their own. No school will teach you this. But if you know that this is something which is required to be done, you put that on your checklist, spend time on it, then you will always end up with a solution which is more acceptable or which addresses the problem more. So that's the second point where social innovations are not too many that are happening. And the third, again, the biggest one is funding. So normally social innovations do not attract too much of funding until and unless there is a good storytelling that happens. Because the pain that you have realized, for which you're creating the innovation, that pain is not felt by the funders also. They sit at a very different place. So your storytelling should actually make them feel the pain. And that is where a lot of social innovations get stuck, because they get so much married to the pain that they start explaining the pain in greater depth, and finally end up not telling that person that I have a solution, but making that person feel very remorse and helpless. Like, oh my God, there's so much pain. I cannot do anything. Sorry, I'm not the person. You need someone else. So you've not attracted enough support, financial support for your thing. So make people realize the pain only to the extent where they feel part of it. Stop it there. And then tell them that you have got a solution to this. And that's where the excitement begins. So, your body language changes. You make them feel the pain. And then I have a solution. So the entire expression changes. The expression of that person who's hearing you also changes. So I'm relating to that because we also face this similar problem, initial stages. he had no funding at all and completely bootstrapped. I used my own savings to do that. That's no harm, right? But in doing that, it actually helped me. Why? Because one, that I could do my storytelling in a different way. And the second is that I could tell a funder that, look, I did not wait for funding to start this. I started. And now I'm asking for funding. I put in my own money. I put myself at my own risk to do this. Now I'm asking support. I'll give you a very simple example, probably that can give a solution and we can. So, for example, we had actually encountered a big problem. We identified an issue where the disabled in our country, physically and mentally disabled in our country, did not get any health insurance support. No insurance was made for them because they were not considered insurable. Why? Why not insurable? Because they have more kind of medical problems and all that, right? So they were not considered insurable. And that is why they did not get any insurance support, no insurance was made for them. We identified the solution, we started working on it. I collected a lot of data from hospitals, from police stations to find out that what level of, what extent of hospitalization do they have, how many accidents do they end up in, and all that data. And I found that the percentage was much lesser, but the insurance companies were saying that they were not insurable because they were based on some US-based data or American data who were their reinsurers. To cut the whole long journey short, finally what happened is that I could convince, of course, with a lot of pressure from a Supreme Court advocate and all that, we could convince one insurance company to give an health insurance to a mentally challenged or multiple challenged person. I said, I'll take the most difficult thing. And the condition that was given to me was that, okay, we are ready to experiment with you. How much do you want the insurance coverage for? We said 1 lakh minimum for the whole year. Let's begin with that. They said, okay, we are ready to give the insurance, but the condition is that the insurance company will not pay more than 120% of the premium that is paid. Now, the premium was how much? Some 5,000 rupees. That was the premium, right? And the coverage would have been how much? 6,000 max, right? The insurance company said that we can pay only 6,000 if there is a claim. The rest you'll have to manage. So they're giving the insurance, but I'll have to manage the claim. Look at that. I said, how do I manage? They said, well, you find out. I gave a personal affidavit saying that if the claim is more than 120% of the premium, I will foot the bill. I gave an affidavit. And on November 28, 2005, the first ever health insurance to a mentally challenged person in India was given in Bhopal. But God was great. And that guy did not have too much of expenses. So his family took a lot of care so that he does not, preventive care so that he does not end up in hospital. But anyway, that was bound to happen. And I didn't have to spend that money. But here is where I convinced the government that, look, I did not wait. I put in my own money at stake. Can you come on board now? And the result that happened was that the government of India set up a national task force to create an health insurance, to create an insurance framework for the physically and mentally challenged. And I was taken into the task force and asked to head it. We had the Chief Commissioner of Disability and the Chief Commissioner of the National Trust also with us. Worked with IRDA for 6 months to develop the whole framework and then suggested that to the government. And on March 25th, 2008, the government implemented a national health policy for all mentally challenged in the country. So, you know, that was the kind of support that we got. But when I said that I cannot wait for you, I put myself at stake. That is the kind of confidence I have in this solution. Now, are you ready to come on board? And remember, everyone wants to ride a moving bus. No one wants to ride a bus which is currently at a place. Although that is the right moment to enter, but people always like to ride a moving bus. You need to get the bus moving before you attract people to join you, or to get into the bus with you. That's very important. What were the other questions? I forgot. Yeah.
And we are institute professors.
Sorry, yeah, institute, yeah.
So we have computer labs,
Right.
labs on this. But from your point of view, I want to understand what kind of lab or any kind of infrastructure that we can have in our institute to address these issues. Is any expert, we are point or any kind of
Okay,
in our institute level.
I can understand. There are two things. See, one is when you talk about social issues, you actually do not require any infrastructure. You want the startup, the entrepreneurs to actually go into the field and understand these social issues. All they need to come back is sit at a place and kind of, do all the paperwork. But the work is actually done on the ground. So as an institute, you do not need any infrastructure, right? Second thing, I'm sorry to say this, but it is a fact that actually an entrepreneurship should be guided by practicing entrepreneurs. Those who have done it, those who have been there, done it, they know what an entrepreneur goes through. It becomes very difficult when, institute professors are assigned that task to teach entrepreneurship, which they might not have never tried in their lives. It is very difficult to anticipate the problems that an entrepreneur can get into, which an entrepreneur already has. So either you take faculty who have already been seasoned entrepreneurs, now you have got the professors of practice, which under the UGC norm. So under that, you can actually get these entrepreneurs into academics as well. I think that's the right way of how you should begin. And social issues, make them go to the ground, do the work there, come back, assemble, do a feedback, churning, then again go back to the field. So all those, right from product or service validation to product market fit, and everything is actually done on the field. Nothing happens in the institute framework. So you don't need to have a big infrastructure. Okay. Sorry, Navin,
So, sir, to add what you said, Vatmani Foundation also find the same thing, sir, that if we want to bring entrepreneurship to college level, student level, we wanted to work with faculties first. And the way this boot camp, and yesterday also I was emphasizing on this thing, that if you want to help your students, you need to get your hands dirty first. Otherwise, it is going to be very difficult. We cannot just stay at the idea level and say, okay, this idea is good and this idea is bad, right? You need to go deep and try to all the steps by yourself and move forward and help your students to build at least their POCs or MVPs, where they also go out and their students go out and talk to the customers. That is the first step, which we are emphasizing, which we are promoting in hundreds of colleges in this country right now. Now I'll come back to my question, because the origin of my question came from the sustainability part of a social innovation or entrepreneur, because commercialization, according to me, this is my personal opinion, which I have observed, and this is my opinion, that commercialization of social innovations seems to be very difficult. And most of the time people depends on the government funding and grants. To make it sustainable, do you believe that government is only government support is the only way to sustain, or there are other ways to.
Okay, great, thank you. So let me answer the last question first. Government is not the only way. In fact, that should be the last resort. After you've tried out everything, nothing works, then only it's government, because government funding comes at a huge cost.
Guys, please don't discuss. This is, I'm asking, I almost have all the answers. I'm asking from your point of view. This is not my personal question. I'm asking this on your behalf.
Right.
So please listen carefully what sir is saying.
So I don't know, there are a lot of government people also here, I can understand, but then please remember that government funding also always comes at a cost. And that cost is either bribe, corruption, huge levels, there's nothing hidden, and it goes to as much as 40% of your funding, right? Be careful with that. Once you've made your hand dirty in bribing them, you will always keep your hands dirty, because then they have got you on the hook that they can blackmail you and get all their work done at any point of time, otherwise you'll be exposed, right? So be very careful with government funding. That should be the last resort that you should take. Try everything else before that. Coming to the sustainability of a social entrepreneurship. We always think that social entrepreneurship cannot bring any revenue, right? But no business or no entrepreneurship can run without revenue. It is only a matter of profit. When we say that the social sector is a not-for-profit sector, it is not so. It is not so. You need profit to run any entrepreneurship. That profit does not come only through commercialization. It is not only commercialization that should bring profit. How do you also find out your sustainability from this whole journey, right? Because you also need to sustain, isn't it? You're part of the solution, right? But you need to think yourself as part of the solution and not the solution giver. It is not that you have created a solution for a community and you have walked out of that place. No, that I've done my job. You have to be with them till they are on their own, right? But while you are with them, you need your sustainability also. You need the whole entrepreneurship, the whole business model to sustain as well, isn't it? How can it sustain without revenue? Revenue needs to come. Let's see revenue from a different perspective. So what do we think? Always revenue is what? It's actually someone giving the money and money getting accumulated at one place. Does that what happen? How much money is there in this world? Maximum, how much can it be? Can you compare it with anything? How much money can it be there in total? World economy. It can never be more than the gold reserves in the world. Right? Gold reserves are limited. So money is limited. Right? Now, if money is limited, if you are the accumulator, it is actually coming from someone else who's being deprived. And that is how our whole country is in the position today, right? 2% of the population hold 80% of the country's economy. 98% hold the rest, 20%. So it has come out of those 98%. So money only changes hands. Look at revenue not in terms of accumulation, but in terms of circulation of that money. How frequently can that money change hands within the system that you have built? Will keep your system always active and running. And in this whole system, you are also part of it. You're also taking some revenue out of it and you're spending in that as well. Let me give you a simple example of, you know how producer companies work. How many of you know how producer companies work? No, I think they haven't. Okay, so normally this happens in the agri sector. What they do is they aggregate a lot of farmers together, set up a producers company, which is a Section 8 company. I don't know if you're aware of these terminologies or not, but a producer company is created. And in that, the farmers are all shareholders of that producer company. They together they're growing in their own fields, but together accumulating and selling it. So as one single bulk to either in either a B2B or a B2C segment, right? I hope these terminologies are okay with you, right? So producer company works in that fashion, and the profit that they earn out of that. So they also buy fertilizers together in bulk. So that reduces the cost of fertilizers, pesticides and other things also. And they're also selling in bulk so that they get a bigger customer and they can negotiate or bargain the selling price accordingly, because now they're a bigger supplier, right? In this whole producer company, someone starts the producer company. For example, if you are the innovator who says that, okay, I can have a solution to the farmer suicide case by aggregating all these small farmers together and then creating a producer company out of them so that they all, sow the same crop, they all harvest the same crop, and then they put together in a warehouse. And from that warehouse, when it is sold, then I do the marketing and get them a good B2B for the sale, so that all of them get good returns. Now, you are doing a lot of work in this, right? A lot of groundwork. You also need to be paid for that, right? So a person who starts the producer company actually becomes an employee of that producer company. So now the farmers collective is actually employing this person as a coordinator for market outreach. You get paid a salary for that. And when you get paid a salary, your sustenance happens, the money changes hands within the system. There's a lot of interloaning that happens. All those, financial dynamics also come into the play so that the farmers do not have to depend on money lenders. And together they have some money in stock so that can be used for money lending. All that the producer company does, but now you are a part of the solution that sustains. So a sustainable model needs to be built in such a manner so that you become and you play a role in the solution and also take a revenue from it, spend it back into the solutions. All that you need to do is to ensure that the revenue is continuously changing hands within your own entire entrepreneurship. And that is when your system will become, or your solution become sustainable. It is not accumulation, but circulation of revenue. That is very, very important in making a business or a social entrepreneurship sustainable. And you play a role in it. Right? Yeah, they do. So funding is available. There are multiple. But you also need to check, what is their inclination. So their domain that we want. But reach out only to them who actually want to address the same domain that you want.
But the question is, they have to address 50% of their.
Yes, that's the regulation. But the other problem is that the government also says that you should invest more of the CSR in the government programs. And if you're not able to find any, put it in the PM CARES fund. So organizations find it more convenient because they get a lot of help from the government. Any more questions? No? So good. No more questions. Everyone is tired. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Sorry, who's you're talking about? Sorry, I thought that you said. Yeah, sorry, please go ahead. Sorry.
Sir, is that true? Storytelling is a part of good leadership.
Good leadership and storytelling? How does it?
I heard something.
Well, a good leader is always a good orator, right? Because in our country, orators become leaders. So, if you're a good storyteller, you can become a good orator, but that does not ensure leadership. Leadership is something much different than this oration. So, let's not get swayed by Yes, please.
Hello, sir. Sir, my question is that, as a startup, how should we do the stakeholder management? like we pitched the idea, we got the investment, and then like suppose रहता है ना कुछ startup में बीच में decisions रहते हैं, we are like we should like as an entrepreneur we are like little patience, और जो investors रहते हैं they want returns. So एक certain decision पे they want we should do this, and like we are like we should be patient in the market and we should do this. So how we are going to do the stakeholder management? As a startup, they will be like na कि we have more experience, we have seen number of startups. So how should we do like that?
So when you say stakeholder management, it is not stakeholder but investor management.
Yes. When we have multiple investors.
Multiple investors, so multiple, it's basically investor management, right? Stakeholder is much more than investor. Investor is only one of the stakeholders, right? So, good question. So, you know, when I said that you should choose your battles carefully, choose the investor that will be serious in investing and having patience with you. See, just don't take anyone, because the moment you take more number of people with varied interest, you actually end up in being in the soup, right? Which has got multiple components in it, all boiling together, right? So you need to be patient in choosing the right investor and tell that investor that, look, this is my plan, which I've currently planned, and I'll be moving on the same lines. I'll be absolutely transparent with you. Be very transparent with the investor. Let the investor know every step that you are taking and what is the result of it. The moment the investor is aware of your ways, wherever the investor feels that you are going a bit off track or you're facing a problem, he will bring in resources to support you, not question you. But if you're keeping the investor in the dark, just with the assurance that you'll give him returns or an exit after X number of months, then the investor is only expecting that. He doesn't know your journey. Keep the investor involved in your journey always. And that is why choosing the right investor is very, very important. It might be late, it might be just one, it might be less, but it will be good to start with something like that.
Do you recommend NGO turning into a social enterprise? Like, is it a feasible model of business or getting into entrepreneurship? An NGO converting itself into a social enterprise.
How is an NGO different from a social enterprise?
But primarily, initially, they propagate as non-profit, no money, and then they move ahead towards that.
Are you calling yourself an NGO or an NPO?
NGO.
NGO is non-government organization, not a non-profit organization.
NGOs can be profitable. Section 8 companies are Section 8 organizations.
Why don't you take the mic? Mic so that others can hear you. What are you saying? Let him just answer that question. Navid is actually
so NGOs can be profitable. Like Vadvani Foundation is a foundation, but Vadvani Foundation is a Section 8 organization, which means we cannot take any money directly, cash or equity, nothing, right? So there can be a non-government organization, NGOs, but they can be profitable. So it's a myth. And so for non-profits, there are certain like a lot of NGOs depends on CSR funds, right? That is one way of generating funds, and you can generate funds as well. I mean, you can hire people, you can generate funds, but you need to be very careful how you use the funds. So whatever money comes in the even for a non-profit organization, that is under the radar. You have to give, but you cannot utilize that money as a profitable business. You can give it in salaries, you can give it in multiple events and everything, but you have to be careful. So you can generate revenue. It doesn't mean that you cannot generate revenue. You're not supposed to. You are not supposed to just depend on the CSR fund. That is another way. That is what we are trying to say. If you are always depend on somebody else fund, then probably somebody else will dictate the terms.
Absolutely.
Even in CSR, I mean, I've worked with a lot of NGOs in the past, but when they say if you go to organization for CSR funds, they are not just there sitting for giving the funds. They always have an agenda to promote their brand as a, you know, social awareness brand or something, so that they can make more money out of it. Right? It's not always noble and one-sided, right? It's like that.
You know, it's very simple. How many Indians love to pay income tax?
2%, sir.
Right? Why? Because any tax is actually a cut from your own savings, right? No one likes to pay tax. Similarly with corporates, CSR is forced upon them. Who would like to, you know, share their profit with others? Why? Until and unless that brings back something, either revenue or visibility or image building, something needs to come back, right? That is what Navid is trying to say, that they have their own agendas in mind. You need to understand their psychology. Put yourself in their shoes, understand their psychology, and then you can work out.
Exactly. I think the time is up.
I think so, but yeah, let's take the last question. Yes, please.
सर यहाँ पे जो स्टेक होल्डर क्रिटिसिज्म की अपन बात कर रहे थे, तो जब टीममेट्स आते हैं, मतलब इफ यू आर अ इनिशिएटर कि हमारे जो आइडिया है वो हमें पता है कि क्या विजन है, बट जब हम अलग अलग टीममेट से कनेक्ट करते हैं तो अलग अलग फीचर्स बताते हैं, अलग अलग फंक्शंस बताते हैं, तो उस पॉइंट पे एक सबको अलाइन करके कि वो फंक्शन जो बताते हैं वो हो तो सकता है, बट दैट नॉट द राइट पॉइंट कि अभी उसको एग्जीक्यूट करना है। उसको जब हम पोस्ट करते हैं तो कई बार कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स आ जाते हैं टीममेट्स में कि ये फीचर अवेल नहीं कर रहा, तो उन सब फीचर्स को लेने के बाद प्रॉपर डायरेक्शन कैसे दें सब टीममेट्स में और प्रॉपर एक अलाइनमेंट और विजन कैसे सेट करें कि अभी 2 महीने में ये टारगेट है, देन आगे जाके ये टारगेट होगा, तो ये कैसे अलाइन करें?
Okay, so shall I answer that in English? Huh? Right. Because I think most people understand Hindi, some might not understand. So first thing is that your teammates are never the ones who are in your critical brainstorming, not the teammates. Teammates is your own, you know, people who are part of your team. They can never do critical brainstorming with you. Critical brainstorming is done by people who's most unhappy with your initiative in your family. Who's most unhappy? Tell me. Your father, your mother, your brother, your sister, who?
Father.
Father, right? He's the best person to criticize. Take him into that critical brainstorming group. All those people who are the most criticizing are the ones who know where and why would you fail. And they would tell you, these are the points, you need to just create a solution for that. You need to just overcome that. The ones who criticize you the most are the best for critical brainstorming. They might make you feel absolutely useless, but that is what they want, you know, that they point out the right things. Because the world will anyway criticize you after that. Probably they have seen it earlier, right? They might have their own perspective. They might come from a service class family and they do not appreciate business at all. They might have failed in business, X number of things. But they'll always tell you why you can also fail, where you can also fail. That is important. Your teammates will never do the critical brainstorming. But be very sure you do not answer back to those people who criticize. Do not, just stay quiet. Note down everything and then try to build solutions for that into your solution.
सर, तो जैसे आप बोल रहे हो कि जो लोग क्रिटिसाइज करते हैं उनका मतलब सुनना चाहिए और उन पे अप्लाई करना चाहिए सोल्यूशन, तो फिर हम ये टीम में कैसे कल्चर लेकर आए कि जो हम सजेस्ट कर रहे हैं या जो हम डायरेक्शन बता रहे हैं उस बात पे चलो, बिकॉज अलग जब टीममेट्स होते हैं तो उनके अलग अलग पॉइंट ऑफ व्यूज आ जाते हैं, तो जब मुझे पता है कि मैंने क्रिटिसिज्म सुना है और ये इसका सोल्यूशन है, यही अप्लाई करना है, तो फिर टीममेट्स को कैसे कन्वे करें?
फिर उसको टीममेट्स के साथ करिए, सेम चीज टीममेट्स के साथ करिए कि ये मेरा सॉल्यूशन है. इनवाइट क्रिटिसिज्म, दे विल बी वेरी हैप्पी. एज सच वो क्रिटिसाइज कर रहे हैं, वो आइडियाज दे रहे हैं, राइट? बट व्हेन यू इनवाइट क्रिटिसिज्म दे बिकम वेरी केयरफुल, क्योंकि अब उनको क्रिटिसिज्म के लिए रीजन भी देना पड़ेगा कि क्यों क्रिटिसाइज कर रहे हैं, क्यों ये कह रहे हैं कि फेल होगा. दे नीड टू आल्सो गिव रीजंस फॉर दैट, राइट? So invite criticism from them too. It's not that you are the founder, so they cannot criticize you. But let them criticize you. So that goes into the culture of the organization, that whenever someone comes with a solution, there is a critical brainstorming group that criticizes and helps the person refine the solution. So it is basically for refinement, just as you did failure for success. You know, you learn from the failures and take it to success. You improve upon the points where you had failed. So critical brainstorming works exactly like that.
That's why you have to be there and prepare. You're going to change your mind and get the best possible. And your team, that's why you have entered.
That also makes the faculty very clear कि हम जब सवाल पूछते हैं हमको
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Pradeep sir, for such amazing and peaceful section. Then I would like to call them Mr. Arindaman Mondal sir to take handover.
Oh, I get a certificate. Thank you so much. Is that good? Yeah. Thank you.
Everyone, I would like to thank Pradeep sir once again for amazing session and for enlightening us. A lot of students have not marked their attendance. When you go out for tea, please mark your attendance. Kindly move out quickly and come back for the next session. Who is Damini Goyal?
Yeah.
Damini Goyal. I have a gift for you.
Ganesh,
Good morning, everyone. We are starting with the second session of the day. Professor Fayaz Ahmad Nika is here, Director, Design Innovation Center, University of Kashmir. I would like to welcome him. Sir, please.
I am both with you. Okay. Yeah, I don't have any issue. A very good afternoon to all of you. Am I audible? Yes. A very good afternoon to all of you. Dear participants, okay, as you like. As you like. I welcome you all to this session. There were participants from different universities and institutions across the country. I have been given to understand that we have participants from different colleges and universities, and we have also some faculty members from different universities. It is really a pleasure to be amongst you today, and I must express my gratitude to the Ministry of Education and also All India Council for Technical Education for giving me a chance to be at Bhopal, and that too to be present in this session at a very, very prestigious institute, that is Indian Institute of Science, Research and Education. I have been given the job of having some interaction with you as far as funding of startups is concerned. You might have heard different speakers since the start of this bootcamp, and I am convinced that you might have substantially added to your knowledge, and you will be so much knowledgeable more than me as far as startups is concerned. But I have been given a very, very crucial assignment to discuss with you, to interact with you as far as funding opportunities for startups is concerned. Because ultimately everything boils down to money. And we are all concerned about money at all levels. And without money, we cannot move onwards. Even if somewhere we have to manipulate the situation to some extent to get money, we will do it. Are you comfortable with English, all of you? Okay. So I was saying that even if sometimes we have to manipulate the situation here and there, we are ready to do it. I am reminded of an anecdote. I will share that with you. Once a bill was submitted to the finance and accounting section of a particular organization, defense organization. It was regarding providing of drinks to the soldiers at a particular altitude. And there was an objection from finance department that the soldiers at this altitude are not entitled to reimbursement for these drinks. Say it is 100 feet, up to 100, it is not. They were at the top, but they were within 100 feet. Then what response was provided to finance section by the concerned defense staff? Yes, it is right, up to 100 feet, there is no provision for providing free drinks to soldiers. But once we provided them and once they drank it, actually, they were standing at that point of time. And their head was above 100 feet. So it should be entertained. So if we do manipulate situations here and there in order to get the money. So money is all the more important for every organization. I have been just listening to the erstwhile speaker also for a short while here. And I could gather some impression of what this bootcamp is all about and what is the aspiration of the participants from this very boot camp. Since I have been given the task of discussing with you the funding opportunities, so I would like to ask you a question. We are a very populous country after China. Is that population a bane or a boon? Is the burden upon us or it is an advantage? If it is skilled, it can be a bane, it can be a boon. If it is not skilled, okay. So that speaks the gap. Once we raise hue and cry that we have the public control, the population numbers are increasing, there are difficulties with us, unemployment is there. So that indicates probably our people, despite having a very, very good human resource, they are not capable enough to contribute to the productivity of the country. This is a simple indicator. There is no need of any explanation or interpretation to this, because that girl says if the manpower is capable, if they have capacities and capabilities, then it is good for the country. If it is not like that, then it is a burden, it's a problem with the country. And if at all we say sometimes that our problem is unemployment, our problem is increasing numbers, that means probably there is a gap, there is a deficiency in us. We have not been in a position to capitalize on certain things, to build up the capacities and capabilities of our human resource, which is very, very important. And I am reminded, as far as Human Development Index is concerned, India has ranked 132nd in the Human Development Index ranking. Despite having a very, very big and large population, despite having a good diversity, despite having a good human resource, probably we have not been in a position to develop the capabilities of our people to an extent where we can get a good ranking as far as Human Development Index is concerned. And this is an indicator that as far as 132nd ranking in 2022 is concerned, that probably there is some problem somewhere. We come across even today that people are unemployed. There is structural unemployment. There is disguised unemployment. If there are people from economics, they can understand it very well. But for others who are not from this very stream, especially these little sons and daughters who are from different colleges, we have the people who don't find a job. And they are really unemployed people. But we have the people, they have one set of skills, but we have jobs for another set of skills. Despite having jobs available, despite having people available, there is no compatibility between the skills and the jobs that are available in the country. That we call as structural unemployment. And third is disguised unemployment, which means apparently people are employed, but they have no work to do. So even if in a particular organization we need 10 people, we have employed 20. So there is work for 10 only. 10 are taking the salary, but they are not actually contributing. This can be a state of underemployment. This can be a state of disguised unemployment. So these are the issues which are confronted by the country. To address this kind of issue, we have now understood that we need to direct our efforts towards building the capacities and capabilities of people and nurturing them so that they can be the productive factors for the country. If at all we have to increase the GDP, if at all we have to go for diversification, we have to contribute to the economy of the country, then the best asset and human resource available with us is the human resource on which we can capitalize upon. This technically we call as demographic dividend. Next slide. This we call as demographic dividend. What is the working age population in the country? Generally in India, we say 15 to 59 is the working age population. In some countries, it is 15 to 64. Because in certain countries, 14 falls, like India, 14 falls within child labor. In certain countries, 15 is the age for child labor. So beyond that, you can employ a person from 15 up to 64 in some countries, and in 15 up to 59 in case of, in our context generally, we consider that this is the population of the country which is in the working age group. So actually, these are the people who can really contribute to the economic development of the country. You cannot have an expectation from the child up to 14 years of age. You cannot have an expectation from a person who is 60 or more because he is in the old age. The first one is in the child age. So between these two groups, the group you have the most energetic group, that is 15 to 59. So that group actually is your demographic dividend, which needs to be addressed and capitalized upon. Next bit of Next. Now see, India has 62.5% of its population in the age group of 15 to 59. And this will go up to 65% in 2036. So it is being estimated that this demographic dividend will last up to 2056. That is from today up to 2055-56, this demographic dividend can stay with us. Now this is the time of choosing. This is the right time when we should make a choice to capitalize, to take advantage, to take the benefit, to nurture, to nourish, to direct this group of population. And you being, wow, you fall among this group, the demographic dividend. So what is in front of me this time is the demographic dividend of India. Now, if India remains silent or with eyes shut at this point of time, we may lose this demographic dividend in 2056. Beyond that, we will not be in a position to do anything. So this is the right time to target, right time to focus. And that's why this idea of startups has now started to emerge. Now, startup basically is not the question that you will do an ordinary business. In the last session, some girl posed a question that if there would be criticism of your idea and that too among the team members, what will happen to the startup? Better let me respond to you. Everything comes out of criticism, analysis, and brainstorming. B. Baru says that I am not smart, but I try to observe. Millions had seen apple fall on the ground, but it was Newton who asked the boy. No, millions of people had seen that apple was not going to the sky. It was coming to the ground. But there was one person who questioned it, why it has come down, it has not gone up. And it was one person who gave us this law of gravity and whatever it is, gravitational pull. So unless you question the realities, unless you question constructive criticism is there, you cannot come out with the solutions to diverse problems which you are faced with. Our problem has been that we have not been in a position to question. The most important job for higher education institutions is, or even for that matter, for educational institutions, is to promote this element of questioning. Why factor should be promoted among the students. Please encourage the students to ask a question. Even if sometimes it seems to unusual, but please do encourage them to ask a question. Promoting of this why factor in the classroom is very, very important. Unless you question, you cannot come to the solution also. So that is why once you have to find out the problem, and problem will come to you like a sleep, but you need to scan the environment. You can identify a problem, then you can question things, but only when you scan the environment. There are many opportunities available in the environment. But only thing is that if you have eyes on this environment, you are scanning this environment, you are analyzing this environment by divergent and convergent approach. So through divergence and through convergence, you have to interpret and analyze the ideas. Only then you can come just identify a problem, and then you can propose a solution for this problem. And for proposing a solution for this problem, you have the idea of startups. Our biggest difficulty has been in the Indian context, that our investment in research and development has been very, very minimal. Next slide. Now see, this is the spending on research and development. If you see the India, it is 0.69% of GDP. We are spending on research and development. In case of Israel, it is 4.3%. In case of Korea, it is 4.2%. In case of USA, it is 2.8%. Even in case of USA, that is spending 2.8% of GDP on research and development. They have produced people like Jeff Bezos and Steve Jobs. We being a populous country with wide geographical limits, having the capacities and capabilities of the people not less than others, we are spending 0.69% on research and development. This is where the problem emerges. Had we been focusing on this research and development, probably we could have been in a position to give more and more ideas to the world, because we have the human resource. And this human resource is our comparative advantage. As David Ricardo has said, comparative advantage, India has the comparative advantage of having a demographic dividend, of having a large chunk of population, but probably we are not directing their efforts towards what we should have. So here the problem emerges, and now the government has awakened, and they say that let us direct the efforts of our youth towards promotion of startups so that they can give new ideas, and we can have Atmanirbhar Bharat, self-reliant Bharat. We can export instead of importing. Henceforth, we have been seeing that our balance of payments position has remained negative also, except during 1 year, it has almost remained unfavorable, which means that in India, we are importing more than actually what we are exporting. Though we have the resources available, but these are unexplored. Though we have a good chunk of population, but still we are importing. Why should our balance of payments or balance of trade, for that matter, stay unfavorable? We have the capacity to produce more, to steer the engine of economic growth, and to provide to other countries of the world. And for that matter also, we need to have not ordinary business enterprises where we can have trading concerns, we will buy goods from other countries of the world, we will sell them here at a profit. No, if we have to create a self-reliant Bharat, self-reliant India, then we have to see how we can meet the needs of our people here in India, and whatever surplus would be there, that will be exported to other countries of the world. Hence, you can see the picture. This is the concern, actually, whereby this idea of startups is emerged. Now, startup, for that matter, is a human activity that is working in a state of uncertainty. Because in startup, we don't expect you, as we might have discussed this, because we have been in the bootcamp for several days, and this discussion might have taken place third year. I am just recapitulating so that I can make my point of funding later on. So what I mean to say is that as far as these startups are concerned, there is an element of uncertainty. You are going to do something new, which hitherto has not been done. Or you are going to improve upon something in such a way so that you can change the old one into new one. So that means idea is a different. You have a different idea. And here lies the success of your startup. Funding in its own place. But if the idea is not substantial one, despite having the funding, the startup may collapse. And once you work in a state of uncertainty, it has been seen that 90% of the startups do not make headway. Only 10% of the startups make a headway. But that should not deter us from staying away to have the startups. What we have to see is that if 10% startups are making a headway, what is unique? What is the USP there? What is difference there? So that we can adopt that kind of approach here also, where we have 90% failures. So, my dear friends, capital is okay. This idea is very, and you might have seen that there are business concepts, business models, where substantial capital was not involved. Say Ola, not owning a car, but capitalizing on the cars of contractors. So how much capital they require? They require a capital, I don't say to start with. But ultimately for operational purposes and for fixed assets, they don't require the capital because they have an idea, they have an application, they have an idea, they want to capitalize on that. And they are, I may call it as a piggyback business. You are rising on the shoulders of others in order to carry on a business. अभी आपने देखा होगा कहीं पे कोई शोरूम होता है तो किसी का तो वहां से कोई आता है somebody comes कि I am selling this product, please will you please keep there one shelf for me, अगर बिकेगा तो you will get the profit, अगर नहीं तो मेरा है. So that's a piggyback selling. So this is also a concept. So funding in its own place, funding has its own ramifications. Capital is required. I never say capital loss, but capital loss is not everything. It is not the absolute kind of thing. We need many, many more things in order to have a very, very successful startup. Now, where from this idea will come? Idea generation is a windfall game. But you must be questioning. You must have inquisitiveness. You must have passion. You must have urge to do something new. Do you know how Polaroid camera was invented? That gives instant photographs. Today we have these mobile phones and we are taking photographs after every minute. But before advent of these mobile phones, we had to go to a particular person who was a photographer, take a photograph there. Then it was taking time for him to process it, to develop it, to print it. And after 7 days, he was giving us the photograph. I'm also reminded of my own story when I used to, when I was in need of a photograph that is passport size for just fixing on some application form or somewhere else. I had to go to the photographer and he was just taking a picture. Then he was telling me, please come after 3 days, it will be given to you. So I had to wait for 3 days or 4 days in order to get that passport size photograph. But later on, there was a development that instantly you are getting a photograph. You take a photograph, instantly you are getting a print. So how was this Polaroid camera invented? Edwin Land, he is the person who invented this Polaroid camera. He was on vacation at Santa Fe along with his daughter. Her name was Jennifer. Jennifer was 3 years old at that point of time. He just took a photograph of his daughter. Yes, please stay there. I want to take a picture. He took a photograph and then stopped. The girl said, Papa, Daddy, give me the photograph. You have taken it. This may be an unusual behavior for an elder person, but not for a child. For a child, it is a normalcy. Child will say the same thing. He is a normal child. And it might have been an unusual behavior on the part of the Edwin Land, because he was knowing that it is not possible to give the photograph instantly. He said, no, I will give it to you, but it takes some time. It is to be processed, developed, printed, and only then I can. She said, no arguments. We have taken a photograph, I want right now. And this gave an idea to the person that he needed to work. Let him work on a camera which can give instant photographs. And he could work on that, experiment, research, conduct research, make experimentation. Ultimately, he came up with a camera that is giving us instant photographs. And this is how ideas do come. For idea generation, you may not have a postgraduate degree. For idea generation, you may not be a graduate. For idea generation, you may not be a PhD. But if you have the passion for doing something, if you have the urge, then, and you are very engaged to, and you scan the environment, you will definitely get a new team. And that idea is very, very essential for us in order to make a successful startup, and capital being at its own place. Capital has its own importance. Next, please. Now see, the major factors that a startup, this is Jason Demers, who's founder of Audience Bloom, he says that capital is required very much. Then we must have the idea. Then there should be a team. There should be the proper execution of the idea. There needs to be a leader. We must have a plan. Timing should be appropriate. Crisis response should be there. Marketing should be there. And the growth alongside. These are the requirements so that a startup can succeed. Now, first is the capital, and that's obviously required, which I am going to discuss with you in due course of time, how capital is important. But idea also needs to be substantial, which is practicable. You might have had the discussion over a period of days on this, how idea is very, very important in case of a good startup, successful startup. Then the team also needs to be appropriate. They must be capable enough to steer the boat. Execution, all the more necessary. Leadership qualities are very much required in order to have a startup and to make it successful and to sustain it. I will not go into details of these. I will discuss some of the pointers because of paucity of time. Now the time also. You see, how Jeff Bezos just established the company Amazon. He had a company earlier also, Cadavra was the name of the company. Later on, he changed the name of that company into Amazon. Why? I will tell you. Number one. Number second, he himself was an employee at a point of time, but later on, he could understand that there is 2,300% increase in web browsing every year. So he could gather this idea that there is a substantial scope for online business now, because 2,300% increase is there in web browsing. So people are more inclined now towards these websites and online businesses. And he gave up his employment and came up with the idea that I should go for online business. So this was the right time, which made him, though he came across a number of difficulties because it is not a cakewalk to have a startup. But despite all these odds, he could navigate. And today we see a big empire is there in the shape of Amazon. And even he changed the name. Now see the capacity and this insightfulness of the team. He changed the name of Amazon because at that point of time when somebody was going to the web and web listing, so it was in the alphabetical order. A was coming first. He changed it to Amazon because once people will go to the listing site, so Amazon will come almost first. So their attention would be attracted by Amazon. And this was a concern. Third concern was there was a river. And he said it would be a great, like this great river, big river, it will be a great business because he started with online bookstore. Then he diversified and added new lines of business. And today we see. So that is what I say is that the timing is very, very essential. And that too, alongside idea, timing is also very, very essential. And also crisis response is sometimes, like we have seen in case of COVID. We had to produce the vaccine. We had to produce many things in order to have a response to the crisis, to the pandemic. And even government of India started some schemes so that there can be startups who can supplement the efforts of the government in order to meet the crisis of the pandemic. So this is also an opportunity for us. The only thing is scanning of the environment. And then marketing, how we can commercialize and the growth. But here, I was just listening to the discussion. about the social entrepreneurship, and some people said NGOs also. Let me dispel this notion among you that it is not like this that a social entrepreneur should not earn a profit. No. An NGO cannot earn a profit. A social entrepreneur, if established as a company under Section 8 of the Companies Act of 2013, earlier it was Section 25 of the Companies Act of 1956. Later on in 2013, this amended act contained the provision under Section 8. And under Section 8, we can register a company that is meant for promotion of art, culture, science, religion, philanthropic charity, so on and so forth. These are the objectives. So we can establish a company under Section 8 with these objectives. Now, that does not mean that this company will not earn a profit. This company has to earn a profit. But those profits are not to be divided among the shareholders in the form of dividend. Money will not go to the shareholders. It will be plowed back to promote its objectives. यही पैसा जो इसके मकासद है, जो इसका मकसद है कंपनी का, उस मकसद को आगे ले जाने के लिए जो भी प्रॉफिट कमा जाएगा उसी का खर्च होगा. ये शेयरहोल्डर्स को नहीं मिलेगा. In profit making organization we pay profit to shareholders या owners या partners, whatever it is. क्योंकि काम किस कोई कर रहा है, प्रॉफिट तो उसको कर लेना है. लेकिन in this case, since it is a Section 8 company, you are permitted not to provide any dividend to shareholder. Rather, you can plow back your profit for promotion of objectives. Same can be there also. So that is why in case of this marketing and growth, you can go for marketing there also. Whether it is a social entrepreneurship, whether it is whatever it is. The basic idea is to change the society, to address the issues of the society. And alongside addressing the issues of the society, if you are making some bucks out of it, you should use those bucks in order to promote these objectives so that we can do it at a bigger scale. Only thing is, it is not to be divided among the shareholders. So this notion needs to be dispelled once for all that we cannot earn a profit in certain organizations. Next, please. Now, I am now coming to source of fundraising. If at all you want to establish an enterprise, what will come to your mind? क्या आप पहले क्या आप सोचेंगे? जब भी आपको कोई ऐसा स्टार्टअप करना होगा, say for example you have an idea, पहली बात आपके ज़हन में क्या आएगा? हाँ, फंडिंग का के हवाले से आपके ज़हन में क्या आएगा कि where from I will get the money? दो पॉसिबिलिटीज हैं. या तो अपना पैसा है लेकिन चैरिटी बिगिंस एट होम. तो अगर आपके पास कुछ सेविंग है, यू विल एम्प्लॉय इट. अगर आपके पास सेविंग नहीं है तो ऑब्वियसली यू विल गो टू योर फ्रेंड्स, योर रिलेटिव्स, योर फैमिली इज देयर. पहली बात तो यही आएगी आपके ज़हन में. But maybe this money may not be sufficient to meet your requirements. Or in order to sustain, you may have to think many more. क्योंकि in order to take up the idea, उसके लिए आपको कुछ पैसा चाहिए. लेकिन उसके बाद उसको sustain भी करना है. You have to carry it forward. So what we say, generally there are two possibilities. Number one, we can have a possibility that we can have non-government arrangement. चाहे वो आप अपना होगा या किसी और से लेंगे privately. It will not be a government arrangement. Number second is there a possibility that government can also come to your help at any point of time? That is to be discussed. This is actually the point of discussion here in this case. Now, first is, better next slide, John. Now see, these are the non-government source of fundraising. The first one is bootstrapping. Bootstrapping means that you can plow your own savings, you can approach your family, you can approach your relatives, you can approach your friends. Generally, we call this a stage which we call as triple F. Family, friends, and fools. Family is your family. Just like Jeff Bezos took $3 lakh from his parents to start with. So you can have eye upon your parents. Oh, parents से ज़्यादा कोई affection हो भी नहीं सकता है. So you have not to toil very hard. If at all you have to get funds from your parents. Then you can have friends. They may trust you. They may be attached to you. And there are certain sections of people who don't have experience of this investing in startups. They may be emotionally thrilled to be part of your idea. They are called fools because they don't analyze. उनको पहले से इसका पता नहीं होता है. For the first time they are investing. But this also sometimes happens. And generally we call it as a triple F. Friends, fools, and this family. So bootstrapping is an idea that your charity begins at home. If at all you have any savings, please use that savings. If you have deficiency of money, you can go to your family, you can go to your friends, you can go to the fools, and you can make the private arrangement of all these things so that you can move onwards. Government की बारी कहाँ आई क्यों है वो मैं आपके साथ अभी I will discuss that with you. Now second is you take second as angel investors. Now once you have an idea, you have to develop a proof of concept, isn't it? Then you have to have a proof of concept. Then you have to develop a prototype. Then you have to conduct a market trials. Then you have to commercialize it. These are the stages. 4 stages. Number 1, having a proof of concept with you about your idea. Then developing a prototype. Making market trials. Because trial is a trial. It can succeed, it can fail. Then commercializing. If it succeeds, you can commercialize it. But up to this trial period, even partly up to commercialization also, it is very difficult for you to have the funds from outsiders. And generally, this is a kind of valley of death. It's called valley of death. Here you can succeed or one can collapse. Now, why angel investors are the private players? They provide you the seed capital. They also analyze and see your idea, but generally they give you in the shape of debt, convertible debentures, or sometimes equity also. Why convertible debt? Why debt only? Debt or convertible debt? These people are providing you money at a point where there is high element of risk and there is a possibility it can fail. So they are giving you not equity, वो हिस्सा नहीं बनते इसके, भागीदारी नहीं है. They are providing a kind of loan, debt, कर्जा, ठीक है ना? Because in case of debt and equity has a difference. If there is a collapse, so debtors will, these people who have granted loan, they will get first. Liquidation, अब इसमें liquidation भी नहीं होना, ये trial है. लेकिन at least they have some claim, भाई ये हमारा कर्जा है. आपका आइडिया क्या है, क्या नहीं चला, नहीं चला, but we have given you a loan, you have to repay us. That's why they may be more concerned angel investors, but they are called angels because they help you in a moment where there is much risk involved and nobody else is going to help you. That's why we call them angels. अब ये angels जो है आपको seed money दे सकते हैं, but they may generally give you in the shape of debt, or they may give you generally in the shape of convertible debt. A debt which can be later on converted into equity अगर ये successful हो गया, if it succeeds. If it does not succeed, then they will ask for their money. वो कहेंगे लोन हमारा है, कर्जा है, वो हमें दीजिए. So to some extent, these angel investors can help you at a kind of pre-incubation stage. And then the third one, which is there, that is venture capital is also a kind of